still a lot of stories going on. But calm is something we need here, because there's just so much strife, not only in the USA, but all around the world. I did a Piers Morgan interview today. He's over in London, and it goes all over Europe, all around the world. And we'll post that on Friday in the message slot. And I think you should watch it, because Europeans have no blanking clue what's going on here. And the media over there misreports stuff. It's not like here, where the press in America is partisan. So the corporate media, about 80% of it, wants the Democratic Party to win the midterms. We know all that. And so they skew their coverage to try to make that happen. The other 20% love Donald Trump. They want the Republicans to retain power. But in Europe, it's different. They don't even understand the basics of the stories, like ICE. So I explained it to Mr. Morgan, who gave me a lot of time to roam. And I think you'll enjoy that. Again, it will be posted, BillO'Reilly.com, on Friday. Talking Boy's memo is politics and the Olympics. Okay, Friday, opening ceremonies, Milan, Italy. So-so town, not one of my favorites. If you go to Italy, you got, the south, which is warmer, Rome on down. Love it there. And then the north is the Alps, and beautiful. Milan, an industrial city in the north, and Cortina, a resort outside of Milan, is where the mountains are, and they're going to do all the snowboarding and skiing and bobsledding, and then the ice hockey and the indoor events will be done in the city of Milan. Now, here's the deal on this. So the opening ceremony takes place at 2:30 on Friday, okay? And I think it's going to get record viewership all around the world. I think the Olympics are going to be very big this year. And the games last until February 22nd. That's long. That's a long slog. Security is overseen by the Italian government. Not sure. Now, I know they have consulted, they being the Italian government, with the United States. We have the best security in the world here. It might not seem like it, sometimes we do. And I know that American agents are there, but I'm worried about this a little bit. There are two countries banned from the Olympics, Russia and Belarus, both because of the Ukrainian war. So they cannot show up. Not a lot of big stars. Lindsey Vonn, the skier, 41 years old, is the biggest American name. She hurt herself in the practice runs up. She says she's going to compete, but boy, oh boy, it's going to be tough on her. But otherwise, a lot of anonymous athletes, they will become famous fast when they win. And I'm looking forward to some very good, stiff competition. Now, here's the downside. At the same time the Olympic ceremonies are opening on Friday, the United States will be talking to Iran in Istanbul, Turkey, about a deal. Now, as I reported last night, I had an extensive conversation with President Trump yesterday, much of it about Iran. And, I can't give you the blow-by-blow because it wasn't on the record, but I can tell you that I know a lot about it. And he was asking, and I always give my opinion when asked. I never volunteer it. I don't know whether the deal that President Trump is going to offer will be accepted, because if it is, it will humiliate the mullahs, and they deserve to be not only humiliated, they deserve to be executed. And I don't even believe in capital punishment. If you read my book, Confronting Evil, I got the Ayatollah on the cover. It's exactly the same thing that happened to Shah. Ayatollah came in. Now Persians want the mullahs out. They want to have secular government. Exactly the same. Okay? So anyway, in that conversation with President Trump, something's going to happen. It's not going to be like Obama walking away from Mossad. You remember Assad in Syria, you remember the poison gas red line thing. No, something will happen. But it coincides with the Olympics. This is an unreported story. So if you got the Olympics and everybody's, watching, and all of a sudden you've got American air power leveling the Revolutionary Guard headquarters, which would be the first target, how do you do that? So keep that in mind. The other thing is that Putin's going to cause trouble. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. But I don't know how that trouble is going to unfold. I probably would predict that he will do something heinous in Ukraine. Carpet bomb Kyiv, something like that. But again, he wants to disrupt the Olympics, Putin. So that is all in play. Now, the biggest attraction for me, and I bet for a lot of you, is the hockey. Because if the USA and Canada get to the finals, oh boy, bad blood between President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Canadian team is good. American team's good too, but Canadians are going to be favored. But boy, what a match that would be, huh? So anyway, keep all of that in mind. Things are unfolding quickly. All of that happens on Friday, and that is the memo. All right, there's a new book out. It was released yesterday, and you might want to consider. It's called Rage in the Republic, The Unfinished Story of the American Revolution. Now, it's a little pinheady, but I read it, and you'll learn a lot. The first part of the book is the difficulty of getting American society and the American government running in a way that benefited all Americans. Thomas Paine, very crusty guy. Everybody hated him, except me, I liked him. And Jonathan Turley, the author, goes all through that. So if you like history and you read my books, you'll like this. Then the book takes a turn into, well, are we going to be able to keep what we have here? Our republic, are we going to keep it? Because we got now a surge in AI, we got new techs, we got a corrupt media, we got academia that's falling apart. Can we keep it? So joining us now is the aforementioned Jonathan Turley. He's a law professor at George Washington University. You see him on TV all the time, read his columns. All right, so I want to stay in the present day because you are right in the fire zone. So you teach at a very liberal university, George Washington. Some of your columns and commentary are, I wouldn't say conservative right wing, but they're not liberal. And you do go after some people on the left. What has happened to you because of that?
Well, I'm one of the few libertarians, conservatives, contrarians left in academia. Recent surveys have shown that many departments don't have a single conservative or Republican or libertarian. Yale reached sort of nirvana stage not long ago, where they found that not a single faculty member at Yale contributed to the Republican Party. So there's been this purging that has gone on since I first went into teaching over 30 years ago. And I talk about this in Rage in the Republic, because the second half of the book, as you note, Bill, is looking at whether this republic can survive in what we're facing. Now, part of that is what I call the rise of the new Jacobins. And the Jacobins were, of course, those people who brought about the French Revolution, because the book looks at both the American and French revolutions and the personalities involved, and asks, why did one, the American Revolution, become the most successful, oldest democracy in history, and why did the other become the reign of terror, and what we could learn from that? And the Jacobins began as professors, journalists, lawyers, who talked about due process and the rights of man. And then they became architects of the terror. And what the book suggests is we're hearing those voices again, these new Jacobins. You have the dean of Berkeley Law School saying that the U.S. Constitution is a failure. This is on our 250th anniversary. You have the New York Times regularly publishing law professors saying we have to break the system down, pack or get rid of the Supreme Court, make these radical changes. And what the book raises is that these are people who are trying to remove the very elements that got us here today, the very elements that saved us historically from the demise that we saw in things like the French Revolution. So,
And in modern times in the fascist states all around the world. But why? Why would intelligent people, number one, veer so far left? Do they fear robust debate? Do they fear allowing the American people to make their own decisions?
well, there is this echo chamber environment that benefits many of these, particularly law professors, also journalists. They write for each other. You know, the if you eliminate anyone who's a dissenting voice, it helps you. You get more invitations to conferences, more publications, more control. The last thing you want is someone who's going to say you're wrong. And I never thought we would be in this position, quite frankly. You know, as I said, I went into teaching 30 years ago, but more importantly, as I talk about in the book, when I went to University of Chicago, it was an awakening for me. There were people, I grew up in a liberal, democratic, politically active family. I knew there were young Republicans, I just never met one. And I went to University of Chicago, and in the basement, the Trotskyites would meet. And upstairs, we had militant vegans. And next door, we had these bizarre libertarians. It was like walking into the Star Wars bar scene. And for me, it was absolutely just thrilling. I loved every minute of it. I was fascinated to see people that saw what I saw and saw something completely different. My students simply don't have that anymore. You know, most law schools, for example, don't even have a Republican or conservative. If they do, they just have a couple. Now, keep in mind, this country is a majority conservative or libertarian. And I had a debate at Harvard with one of their professors, and I raised with him, and I like him a great deal, but I raised with him this issue that the faculty at Harvard has only a handful of conservatives or Republicans, and the student body is less than 9% in a country that's divided equally, and where the majority of judges are conservative. And he immediately said, well, we're Harvard, we're an elite university, we don't have to look like America. And I said, but Randall, you don't even look like Massachusetts. I mean, Massachusetts
Right.
is over 30%.
But see, that's the key to changing traditional American society, the classroom. So if you get the urchins at age 13, and by the time they get out of college, they're 22, and all they hear is America's bad, stolen land. That amused me greatly at the stupid music awards. If all they hear is that, then you're indoctrinating a whole new generation of Americans to move to the radical left. So I think this is a very well thought out plan.
No, it is. And in fact, Raging Republic goes into that because I talk about Mondami, I talk about all these socialists. The polls show that socialism and even communism are being embraced by really record numbers of young people. And as I talk about in the book, these are people with no memory or experience with the socialist governments that collapsed in the 20th century. So all they know are these sound bites, like Mondami saying, "I'm going to introduce you to the warmth of collectivism."
Right.
It's very much like, as I talk in the book, when Mitterrand was elected president of France, he actually appointed a minister of leisure because he was promising the French they'd have so much time paid by the government that he was going to have someone manage to make sure they could get all the leisure they want.
I know.
And of course, the economy collapsed. But these kids never saw that.
Well, I mean, the warmth of collectivism is tough because Mandami can't even plow the snow off the streets of New York City. So that's collapsing pretty fast. But I think that you're correct in saying that when you have a monolithic left-wing educational system, and you do in this country, that's going to change the voting patterns. It has to. Now, the second thing is the corporate media has bought into that. They like that. You often appear on a Fox News channel. George Washington University can't be happy about that, are they?
No, I've been shunned for years, but I've been shunned since I testified in the Clinton impeachment. So if you can't be fired, because I am a chair tenured professor, so instead you're largely shunned in
What does that
academia.
mean, shun? How
Oh,
does that?
you. The thing is, this is a group that'll try to take away everything that has meaning to an intellectual. Publication of papers, joining conferences, those type of things go. If you really sort of violate this orthodoxy in
Have you
academia.
ever had words with these people who are trying to sabotage your career?
No, because I don't have words with many academics because I am persona non grata. There's very few of
They
us
don't even
left.
talk to you, and
No,
again,
no, and there are
no,
very few of us left in academia, and it's amazing because half of the students are coming in this country are coming from conservative or libertarian families, and they get to law schools, and there's virtually
right,
no one that can share that view.
right.
But one of the things that worries me most, and I go into this in Rage in the Republic, is that we're going to be facing challenges that we have never encountered before. I talk about robotics and AI, but also global governance systems like the EU. But even as the book goes into, even taking the most conservative estimates, this book is a roaring endorsement of capitalism. I believe in capitalism. Milton Friedman ruined me at the University of Chicago. I do believe that capitalism will adjust, but we are looking at a massive job loss that we've never encountered before. And that means we're going to have a lot of people that may be on a subsidy of the government. And the book looks at how that would change us politically, not just economically.
Sure.
What if we have a kept citizenry that is being subsidized by the government?
Well, that's what happened in the early 1930s. So you
Right. So
had
the book,
the Hoover people come in, very conservative people, capitalists to the top of their forehead, and they booted the recovery of the Great Depression, and then FDR came in, and the whole electorate changed over. But I'm very interested in your personal story because you do write in a personal way in this book. So you get it on the Fox News channel. Now there's pressure there to toe that conservative line. Do you feel that?
I haven't. I've worked twice as legal analyst for NBC, twice legal analyst for CBS, also with BBC. So I've worked for four networks, uh, and I have good memories of all four networks. I've never felt pressure at Fox.
Good.
And
I'm glad to hear that because
while
I never
while
did when I was there. They never ever interfere with what I did.
right.
Um, but when you're on there, do you understand the vilification? Because that was crazy from my experience. I got attacked every hour on the hour. I never understood it. So why do you care what I say when you got five other news outlets that are saying what you want to hear? Why is one outlier, me or you, if you say something the left doesn't like, why does that bother these people? I never got that.
I think that, and I go into this in the book as well, that part of the problem with this orthodoxy, both in the media and in academia, is that it makes you increasingly intolerant to hear opposing views because all you hear in your echo chamber, if you just go from MS Now to CNN, or if you don't leave that silo, you become more and more intolerant, which is what we're seeing. And also, social media has changed us a lot. I've had a lot of death threats. My family's been threatened. That was the uptick was when I testified in the second impeachment involving Donald Trump, and I received hundreds of threatening
What did
emails.
you tell the people, just so if people don't remember, what did you say? Your crux of your remarks were what about Trump impeachment?
Well, I testified at the hearing, and I was the only Republican witness, and I opposed the impeachment,
Okay.
which I think was an abuse, and I also think the second impeachment was an abuse. But having been in with one foot in on the media side for 30 years, it has changed in that social media has unleashed a lot of that rage.
Yeah.
And this book talks about rage. The all country, well, not all countries, but many countries are the product of revolution. And revolutions are caused by rage. And our revolution was caused by rage. That's what the Boston Tea Party was rage. The the problem is it's easier to start a revolution than to end it. And the reason we succeeded is we had two absolute genius figures, and among many. But Thomas Paine was sort of the righteous rage of the revolution. But it was James Madison who was the pious logic. So Paine knew what it would take to move a people to rebellion. And it was Madison that knew what it would take to move a revolution to a republic. And it was the combination of those two characters.
Yeah, and they were totally opposite, those guys.
There could not be more different.
Could not. All right, Professor, it's a fascinating book, Rage and the Republic, out now. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Final thought, I will be in California. I'll leave tomorrow, so we won't be here, but we have a special on the biggest Super Bowl upset of all time. I think the greatest Super Bowl moments. And here's a look at it. Go. The myth then says, and I'm going to play a sound clip now. The myth then says that you were at a kind of a press event and then predicted a victory. Roll that tape.
I get up to the podium and a guy in the back of the room yells out, "Hey, Namath, we're going to kick your you-know-what." And it just, it was just, no, wait a minute. I've been hearing that all week long. I got news for you, buddy. We're going to win the game, I guarantee you. That's all there was to it. One guy in the media picked up on that statement, then everybody said, "Oh, guaranteeing a win, guaranteeing a win."
That was ballsy. Did you know when you were saying that how outrageous that was?
I didn't care. It was a wise guy that yelled out, "Namath, we're going to kick your ass." You know what I said? "Hey, buddy, I got news for you. We're going to win the game, I guarantee it."
Okay. So you didn't care that this was going to be worldwide headlines and that,
Oh, no, I didn't. No.
Are you, if you had to do it again, would you do it again?
Absolutely. It was a wise guy back there.
I think you'll enjoy the interview with Joe Namath. It'll be on tomorrow on all our outlets, okay? 6 p.m. on BillO'Reilly.com for members. And then at 8 o'clock on the First TV, streaming, DirecTV, YouTube, you name it. All right, now, I'm going to do a YouTube commentary, and it'll post tomorrow, on the economics of the Super Bowl. This is unbelievable. It's capitalism run wild. Do you realize the top ticket now on the secondary market is $30,000 to see the Dopey game? I guarantee you I'm not paying that. But the hotel in San Francisco where I'm staying is so expensive, I thought I might bunk with the homeless. That's how big it is. I'm going to give you all the numbers, and they're astounding, on our YouTube bonus, which will drop tomorrow. And we will be back here on Monday. I don't know whether I'm going to write a column or not. I probably will. I'm so busy out there, but I'm going to try to write a Sunday column. Thank you very much for watching the No Spin News and listening on our radio stations across the country. I'm Bill O'Reilly. We'll see you again on Monday. Now, I'm laughing because this is what Lemon wanted to happen. And I write about it in my column on BillO'Reilly.com, and I hope you take a look. And it's not really an important story, but it is demonstrative of where we are in this country right now. So there is an enormous drive to portray President Trump as a fascist brutalizer, and the ICE roundup of illegal migrants is the spear point of that drive. That's a very important story because now foreign money is involved. So let me encapsulate it all in the talking points memo. The corrupt U.S. media is not very interested in the story we broke last week, whereby we named an American citizen, a man named Neville Roy Singham, a billionaire tech guy who lives in Shanghai, China, and works in concert with the communist government there. We told you that he is pumping tens of millions of dollars into the United States to foster rebellion. He does this through 501c's, nonprofit, far, far left organizations. The money comes from China into those organizations. The organizations pay protesters to go out and commit mayhem. If you missed our reporting, which is now worldwide, we broke this story in detail. It is on BillO'Reilly.com. If you become a concierge member, which will enhance your life, you can get a transcript of every single word I say. Okay? But if you're not familiar with the story, go to BillO'Reilly.com and look at what we did last week. Now, you would think that every American would say, we can't allow foreign adversaries like China or Russia or the jihadists to pump money into our country to destabilize it. That's terrible. You've got to stop that, right? Well, it doesn't seem like the corrupt American media is very interested. CNN didn't mention the story. MS Now didn't mention it. David Muir on ABC News didn't mention it. Dave was busy covering the weather as he usually does. NBC, CBS newscast didn't mention it. We kind of missed it. I don't know how. It was out there big. Fox, Newsmax, and especially News Nation. They're the best at it. They did highlight the story. So you have to ask yourself, why would these major television news agencies, and the newspapers weren't very aggressive covering it either, why would they do it? Because it doesn't fit in to their main goal of destroying Donald Trump. That's why. Simple as that. Horrible. It's just horrible. Now, over the weekend, there were protests in the usual places, Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon, and a few others around the country. They didn't amount to much. But LA and Portland are very active 501c's. They get a lot of money, and they hire people and get people out there to create mayhem. In LA, second largest city in the country, there were 8 arrests. Okay? None of those people will be charged. Here's what the mayor said. Go.
I believe there's still about 150 people that are in an intersection. And I know that there have been arrests, and I believe they're up to about 5 arrests right now. And those arrests are for failure to disperse. You know, of course, that the overall reason for the protest today was in solidarity with Minneapolis, and that there were protests all around the country.
Well, they really weren't. This is in Vietnam. There was the usual far-left cranks mobilized in social media. They have lists and names, send them out, go here. You know the drill. All right. Now, in concert with all of this is Minneapolis. So tomorrow, the mayor of the town, Jacob Fry, far left guy, has to deliver information to a federal grand jury. Now, we thought last week that he would have to appear himself, but that's not the case now. He's been subpoenaed, and the federal prosecutors have asked for information. Okay. We're having a lot of trouble getting what the Justice Department is doing. The FBI delivered the subpoenas not only to Fry, but to the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. As best I can determine, all right, this is the reason. And we have, believe me, spent hours on this. The investigation is into whether Fry and Walz obstructed or impeded federal law enforcement during a sweeping immigration operation in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. So those 2 men are being investigated on federal charges of obstruction of justice. Not insurrection yet, not rebellion, obstruction of justice. That is what we can ascertain. But I can't swear to it. Now, we've been in touch with the FBI. They're not going to tell us anything. And I understand when you have an active investigation, whether it's local, state, federal, cops don't want to be feeding stuff out. They want to gather the data. Oh, right, I got it. But this is so important for the American people to know. So what are you looking at in Minnesota? FBI, Justice Department, Pam Bondi. What are you looking at? That's all. All right. You know, we are a due process outfit here. We're not going to convict anybody of anything. Just give us an overview. Very difficult to get anything. In addition, the FBI has now taken over the investigation into the death of Alex Preddy. You remember on January 24th, he was shot dead by Border Patrol agents, and it's a big controversy. It's driving a lot of this, of these protests. And we're not litigating it here. That's insane. That's what they do on the corrupt television networks. We're not going to do that. But it is important that the FBI investigate this because the Border Patrol can't investigate the Border Patrol. ICE can't investigate ICE. That's crazy. So I'm happy to hear that. All right. But the bigger story is the rebellion by a state. And Victor Davis Hanson, and we send our condolences to Professor Hanson because he has lung cancer, wrote a column that mirrored mine. I think it broke yesterday. That look, this is no different than what happened before the Civil War with the South. It's no different. It's the same exact thing. States going, blank you, federal government, we're going to do what we want, and let's see what you got. Big. So I hope that you understand my job is to get as much information to you as I can. We're all over this thing. And that's the memo. A couple of polls. Used to be the Kaiser Family Foundation. That's not. They changed their name to KFF. They did a poll. Okay, 1,400 U.S. adults. First question. Think about the past year. Would you say your cost of living has increased a lot? 50%. Whoa. Increased a little. 32. That's 82%. Stayed about the same, 12. That is not a good number for the president. Second question, how worried are you to be paying these bills, health care? Very worried, 66. Not worried, 34. Food, 57 worried, 43 not. Rent, mortgage, 52 worried, 48 not. Monthly utilities, 57 worried, 43 not. Pew poll, this is different than the poll I just gave you. It's very simple. Do you approve or disapprove of Donald Trump's handling his job? Approve 37, disapprove 61. Obviously, that is not a great number for Donald Trump. Next question, do you think Trump administration's actions since taking office last year have been better than expected, about as expected, worse? Better, 21, about 28. That's 49%. That's not a bad number. Worse, 50. So it's about a tie. Another poll. This is the McLaughlin poll. Now, John works for President Trump. So it's a Republican-generated poll. That being said, John McLaughlin's been very accurate. We wouldn't use him if he wasn't. So, 1,000 likely voters. The Pew poll is 8,500 U.S. adults. Nothing to do with likely voters or registered voters. Okay? These are the people who are avid under McLaughlin. Question, do you approve or disapprove of the job Donald Trump is doing? Approve 50, disapprove 47. That is the biggest discrepancy I've seen quite some time. Okay? Do you support or oppose deporting known criminal and terrorist migrants? Support 87, oppose 10. Do you support or oppose deporting all migrants? Support 62, oppose 32. That startling number right there. Joining us now is John McLaughlin from upstate New York. So when you saw the Pew poll goes way the opposite way of your poll, you said to yourself, what?
Let me check the internals. Let me check the demographics, how they did it. and it's literally 28% Republican. We model ours after actual voter turnout. My survey matches up with the CNN exit polls from the last presidential race. Their poll, we had Republicans 35%, Democrats 34%, very close to the CNN poll. Their poll has only 28% Republicans.
So
But
are
they're
you
doing-
saying they cooked the books here?
Sure, they've been cooking the books. These media polls have been cooking the books against Trump since 2016. Remember the Hillary lock? There was no way Trump could win.
All right, so that's a pretty strong accusation you're making against Pew, that they're cooking the
Sure.
books. They're trying to get the negative number to hurt Trump going forward. And you believe
Right.
that?
Oh, I believe it. Because it's adults, and they know it's not apples to apples, but they get a big headline. And you look at polls. I mean, there's been a series of them in the last couple of weeks. Our friend Larry Kudlow did a series on this, where you have when you look at the New York Times poll that was registered voters, they only have 38% Trump voters. We got 50 in the last election. We got 50% of the vote. We won the popular vote. You have polls like the Economist YouGov. They come out with a poll where they had in their poll, you're referring to notes, I got to refer to my notes, but they had more Harris voters, 46%, to only 34% Trump voters out of 1,722 adults. This is adults. They could be interviewing illegal immigrants for all I know. And you have the same thing with Pew, where Pew, it's adults. And
All
they
right.
do it for an online
I
panel.
believe you. You don't have to convince me any further. I believe you that they're not honest polls. No surprise in this country at this point. Now, when will the polling matter for the midterms? Still 10 months away. And when do you think that people will begin to lock in on? Because this is vitally important for President Trump.
Well, I don't think the voters pay much attention to the polls as we do. They're going to vote based on their own situation. And we have the Republicans down to in the generic ballot. Most of last year, and certainly in 2024, the Republicans were ahead in the generic ballot for Congress, which it doesn't, when you come down to it, it matches up by people vote on the names that are in their district. And but generically, the Republicans shouldn't be 2 points behind the Democrats. The Republicans need to get much more aggressive. They need to run a contrast election. For example, in that same poll where we had 87-10, they favored deporting criminal illegal immigrants. In the same poll, when we asked, would you defund and abolish ICE, 46% of all voters said they would, 48 didn't. And when you're looking at disconnect, well, who is going to deport criminal illegal immigrants? It's the immigration. So the Democrats, and you mentioned it up front about this fellow Neville Singham from overseas funding a campaign against immigration. If you get rid of the immigration police, you have open borders. You then the country's destabilized, and these illegal
people don't link it together. It's all an emotional response. We know that. But this healthcare and insurance situation, coupled with car and house insurance, insurance companies are battering the American people. I talked to President Trump about this.
Right.
And, if that continues unabated for the next 10 months, the Democrats could win on that alone.
Right. And we did a survey for the Great American Health Alliance. Last week, it was released in Washington. Almost 4 to 5 voters support healthier savings accounts. This was an idea Steve Forbes came up in 95, 96 of the presidential race, where you get money that's tax deductible. Could be your own money, could be your employer's money. It's in an account, and you buy insurance above that.
Trump did that. Trump announced that last week.
Right. What a coincidence. But now you have to get Congress to change the laws to allow this to happen.
Okay.
And
but maybe they will and maybe they won't. The messaging, though, on all of this, look, it's very clear, John, and I don't know how you, as a pollster, you process this. There are 2 issues the press, the media is driving: Epstein and ICE. They don't want to know about India or favorable trade agreement, or they don't want to know about savings accounts that would, provide money for kids. And they don't want to know about any of that. Okay.
Right.
because the two issues that they've latched onto, they believe, the corrupt American media, will damage the Republicans and Trump in November. So they're going to just jam this all day long, every day. And that's what's happening. So how do you overcome that?
You have to overcome it the way President Trump did in his last campaign. The tough part is he's not on the ballot this time. And
But he really
going
is. He really is.
He is. Well, but it's the disadvantage because people are voting on you as a national referendum, even though you're not on the ballot.
Right.
He has to get outside the beltway. In the campaign, we broke through the mainstream media by going out directly to the voters, using social media. President Trump did like over 100 policy videos. People that would go to his rallies, we might get 100,000 people there. You would have hundreds of thousands of people send us emails and texts trying to go. The campaign could then use that information to promote ideas and our position on the issues and do a contrast, a straight contrast with the Democrats. President Trump ran because he ran directly against Biden and Harris's failed policies. The Republicans need to hold Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries accountable for open borders, for wanting to raise taxes. How can they talk about affordability when every Democrat in the House voted to raise taxes by 4.5 trillion this year? That's what they did last year. They voted to do that.
They voted against the bill.
But no one's holding them accountable. We have to get out there. We have to go outside the beltway.
Well, I don't know about the we, but it's going to be tight. But I think things will happen. Dramatic things are going to happen in the next 9 months that will, and we really appreciate you talking to us, John, from time to time. If you see any trends emerging, let us know. I think about September, the polls will really start to matter. And thanks for coming on tonight. Here is the final thought. The documentary Melania in the theaters over the weekend. Of course, the Trump haters hate Melania. They hate anything to do with Donald Trump. They hate. Movie did pretty well. About 10 million, highest for a documentary in many, many years. It got mocked, it got scorned, it got lied about. And the leader of the pack, again, is Jimmy Kimmel. Go.
This weekend, the long-anticipated documentary Melania will hit theaters. According to the Wall Street Journal, Melania pocketed $28 million of the licensing fee for the film. You know, between this and her marriage, she's probably the highest-paid actress in the world. Melania, the movie, is expected to bring in between $1 and $5 million at the box office, well behind the horror movie Send Help, which incidentally would have been a much better title for the documentary.
All right, so number one, Jim booted the gross of the documentary. Number two, we cannot confirm that Melania Trump pocketed $28 million. I find that extremely hard to believe. Not that Jimmy Kimmel cares. He doesn't. But I don't think so. Could be wrong. Maybe somebody slipped her the coin. I don't know. But we can't confirm it. And here's why I'm doing this. Do I care what Jimmy Kimmel said? No. I do. I guess as I get older, I get smarter. I don't know. I don't care what Don Lemon says, what Steve Kerr says, or Jimmy Kimmel says. To me, it's amusement. It's like Mad Magazine. That's what it's like. Remember Mad Magazine? Look what they say. But this wave of Trump hatred has really taken root in this country. I mean, people, that's all they hear now. Trump is the devil, he's a fascist, a Nazi, on and on and on. That I object to. Because there's not another counter to that. There's a Fox, there's Newsmax, and, News Nation tries to be fair on both sides. But it's overwhelming. It's 85, 90%. We hate him, we hate him, we hate him. Not good on any level. It really isn't. And that's why I report on stories like